Hey, what's happening guys? Mark back here on Mark's Aquatics. In today's little episode, I'm going to teach you how to trim your bush. And no, not the one you're thinking about. This one down here, okay? The one I've got on my bench. Let's go and have a look at it and I'll show you it's in desperate need of a trim. Right guys, there's the bush that needs trimming. Look at the length on that. That has gone out of control. Now, this is a big cylindrical paludarium, as you've seen me build in my previous videos. If you haven't seen the build process of this, you can go back on my playlists, and it's called the paludarium, or how to build a paludarium. And I think it's a 3 or 4 part video on how I made all this. We put the base on, we glued it all on, routed it all out, did all that funky DIY stuff, and created this lovely little little biotope, little paludarium for Jackson, my little fighting fish, my little betta, who lives in here with his girlfriend at the moment, with a load of little yellow sakura shrimps, a couple of cherries as well, or one cherry and one Bloody Mary, which are all happily coexisting in here together. Now Jackson's decided he's going to hide just when he needs to come out and do his cameo appearance, but I don't think he's going to. But what we're going to do on this, guys, on this little episode, is we're going to trim back some of this because it's really encroaching forward here. Now, if you look in amongst there, you can see a slight trickle of water which is coming down, which is my little waterfall, which was coming down and looked really nice when you could see it. But at the moment, this mind your own business, as it's called, 2 different types in there. We've got the yellow type and the green variety in there. Is absolutely taken off. There's peat in the back where all the other plants are as well, with the pothos. I've got an umbrella plant in there as well. I've got some lucky bamboo. I've even got a little mountain ash tree which just literally started growing from the soil that I put in a long time ago. So I've let it grow, and it's looking quite nice. It's a little bit burnt on the leaves on the edges, but don't forget it's autumn here in the UK now. So with that temperature drop, probably won't really hassle it too much, because that temperature of that water is 26 degrees in here, so it'll stay warm. So I'm not sure what's really going to happen there, whether it's going to shed them leaves or keep growing, but it seems pretty healthy apart from those 2 little burnt leaves on the edges there. But I'll probably trim them off today. We got lots of mosses which we planted on the stones here, which are growing quite nicely. All the bottom plants are gone nuts. All this dwarf sage has gone absolutely crackers in here. It's really coated and crept along, and put a nice little carpet along the bottom. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to trim all those off around here, get them more of a carpet, and then by taking them down, I'm going to be taking some of the algae which is growing on the leaves, and that will be removed. And that'll encourage it then to put some new shoots out, thicken up a little bit as well. It's a nice bed because the shrimps like to get in amongst it, bury in amongst it, looking for those little tidbits of food that fall in between it. And what doesn't actually get used up will actually slowly go into the soil, and the plant roots, as you can see all the way through the substrate here, will slowly absorb those little nitrates and things that are produced. Now, Jack's girlfriend's made an appearance. I'm not sure if you can see her down there. I'll just put a little bit of food in for you, and you may see her come out, and she's playing with the shrimps at the moment. I'll just put a little sprinkle of the food on the surface. Might encourage her to come out, may encourage Jackson to come out as well. She's taking little bits off the surface there, as you can see. There she is there. She's only young. They're a young pair. They're quite happily living in there together at the moment. No signs of aggression from him when he does come out. Now and again he'll just give her a little chase around, but there's so many places, as I've said before guys, they go around here. We've got the filter system all back in here, which we've got to be able to get to as well. That's due for a clean out. We'll do that on this episode as well. And I can show you that. That was a DIY custom filter which I built on my laser cutter going back some time now. But it's working fantastic. It's got biohome media inside it with a sponge filter, and I cut the centre out, filled it with biohome so it sucks through the sponge. I'll show you that anyway when we take that out of the water and we clean it out in a while. So what I think I'm going to do first is get my bigger scissors, which are these guys here. These are the curved ones from JBL, which they kindly gave me a while back when I did the bench tank, when I built that. Stainless steel, the ProScape, and really, really good, super sharp, and great for getting down along the bottom like that, because you've got that nice little angle where you can just run it along, and it keeps your hands then away from the base. But I've got this big piece of pothos here, which is growing quite vigorously along the front here. But what I think I'll do is I'll cut that off. Now, if you want to get a pothos cutting, it's very simple. Where you see those roots coming from here, okay, you just need to literally cut it off behind those, snip it off like that, and there you go. You've got a cutting. You can just pop that back in the water anywhere you want, if you want to keep it in your tanks, or if you want to just plant it in the home and just have it as a house plant, plant that straight into some soil, just down a couple of inches, just around there maybe, so those leaves are out, and that will quite happily grow away. It may wither down a little bit as it recovers, but it will soon pick up speed. Oh, here's the boy. He's decided to come out and say hello and do his little victory dance. Good morning, Jackson. How are we, mate? Looking lovely this morning. What a time to go gardening in your home, first thing in the morning, eh? Never mind. We don't go in there often, but he's a lovely little guy. I do miss his dad, Jack. He was a stunning tricolour. He's red, white and blue he was. Oh, you leave her alone. There you are, look, they've both shot off behind the rocks now. That's what I say, there's lots of space behind the back there where they can escape. So it's more of a wild scenario for them. Not like in a tank, if you put the male in with the female and there's not many places, or if anywhere to hide but a little plant, he'll relentlessly chase her and beat her fins up, and it can get quite aggressive. They can get so. But this way, it's more like nature, where she'll come into his territory, and when she's ready to breed, she'll do so, and they'll pair up, do their little bubble nest, as I'm sure you've seen on my How to Breed Better videos in my playlists. Go and have a look at those, and I'll show you how to breed them from start to finish. And it was his dad, his mum and dad, which I bred, and now he's gone back in his dad's tank to carry on that next cycle. So it's all good stuff. So basically all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in like this, and I'm just going to peel this away like so. And it doesn't matter where you cut this stuff, you've just got to get it to the shape where you're happy with it, where you've opened it up a bit. You can do it all shaggy if you like, or some of the old toe puree stuff where you can cut it right back and shape it up just how you want it. I like to keep it undercut like this under here, and just pull that back out into the water, because you can net all this stuff out later on. It's going to look a little bit sparse because a lot of the growing leaves are obviously on the outside to collect the light, but I like to keep that little overhang there because they like to just chill out underneath there. And then with a fine net, and being careful not to chop your fish, I'll remove that pothos there. Now this is one I cut off last time. I'll just show you. And I just poked that into the side. Now, if you can see the roots that have grown from that in a matter of a couple of weeks. It's healed up. The leaves are lovely and healthy. I know it's got a bit of plant on there, a bit of rickia on there. But as you can see there, very, very healthy cutting. And I'm just going to pop that in the back there for a minute. It'll be okay out of the water for some time. Always have a little pot handy as well, guys, okay, with your net. So as you're going, you can carefully net the little bits out, okay? Now I just tend to go just under the surface and just slowly wobble it away underneath being careful not to take out any of my shrimps, because believe it or not, even though there's the better are in there, Jackson and his girlfriend, who I've yet to name, you can quite easily take the shrimp out, because they're pretty fearless shrimp, and as soon as something goes into their tank, for all you shrimp keepers will know that they're very, very inquisitive, and they will end up straight in the net. And you'll catch them out. As you can see, I've got a yellow sakura in there. There he goes, just run out. He must have been hanging on to a bit of that weed. The old subwasatang, whatever it's, however you pronounce that name. But it's all good fun. I tend to keep my tweezers handy as well, which are here. JBL tweezers as well from the ProScape range. And that's the old subwasatang there, which I'll put back in. I always keep some of this in there because the shrimp like to feed off of it. And it looks quite nice when you get it in other tanks as well. So I like to put it in other tanks, but I just keep some in there, and it grows on wood. So if you want to wrap a little bit around with some cotton, you can. And it will slowly stick itself to it. But I'm just going to take all this out in a moment. Got some rickia there as well. Look. That's a floating plant, which you can attach to wood or to stones, whatever you like. It'll stick quite easily to those. And what I'm doing here at the moment, I'm just opening up area as it's being infilled, because believe it or not, that's quite a big. That's nearly 2 foot across. Well, that is 2 foot across, that tank. It's quite a large cylinder, which many of you have asked me, where do I get them from? And where I got these from, and the ones where I made the jellyfish tank, I got them from a recycling place in Cardiff here. And I know some guy that works in there, and he just keeps his eye open for me, and any nice bits which come from these recycling plants he can get for me, or I buy off him. So it's quite handy, but they don't come around that often. I've got some smaller bits left, which I might do another build shortly as the winter months progress, and I'm not doing as much breeding in here as I have been doing throughout the summer. I'll start making something else. I've got an idea for a nice little tank which I can build, which I might build for a little giveaway out of a smaller piece of tube like this. Now this one's fairly big, but the one that I've got and I built the shrimp tank with, the jellyfish tank, which are all dying to see up and running, and you've just got to be a little bit more patient, because I'm doing my coral room out as we speak, and I'm trying to get it up and running in there, because I want to put the jellyfish out there, because it's going to be nice and cool out there for them. And there's obviously, they don't need heaters, so the heater won't be a problem. It'll be nice and cold in the sea, in that seawater for them, and they should thrive away in there and look absolutely stunning as well. But I've yet to finish that off, do the woodwork on there, but I want to make sure I get a little bit further along before I do that. But yes, as we're going at the moment, all looking pretty good. Got a nice little variegated plant in the back here. I can't remember what it's called, to be honest. So I'm just going to remove that in a moment and put that in my little tub down here. And I think what I'll do is I'll snip that pothos plant back a bit further. I think what I'll do is I'll cut it there. So I'm not, if you can see now, that's just, believe it or not, even a chunk like that will take. But if you can see here, it's gone onto that stone and it's rooted into this clump of moss here. So I think what I'll do, just to see, I'll cut it the other side. And as you can see, it's stuck quite fast in there. It's grown in and it's grown down into the water. So I'll leave that leaf down there for a moment. And I'll chop this one back a little bit more, minding my cables, or electrocute myself. Don't want to be doing that. And I can tuck that one back up inside there now, and that's going to make another plant. Now the stuff that's coming out the side here, growing up onto my other shrimp tank the other side, is doing quite well. Leaves are lovely and variegated. Lovely yellows coming out with that green. And obviously this is variegated as well with the variegation white, and I've got a gold one in the back here as well. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to cut some of that away as well. But what I think I'll do now is I'm going to hyperlapse this up a bit, speed it up a bit for you, trim it all up, trim all this stuff back here, get it looking how I want it to look, and then what I'll do is I'll come back, we'll go back up to normal speed, and I'll just have a little chat with you what I've done. When we get to the filter, obviously I'll stop it, and I'll have a chat with you about the filter as well as we go along. Okay guys? The roots from these plants go absolutely everywhere. There's so many nutrients from the peat and everything else in the water. Hello little mate, he's okay. That's the, I'll just put the workshop light on a minute and you can see a bit better than what I'm doing. Right, okay guys, that's the... I'll just get this other lamp over here and show you. This is, you can see the root systems now, you can see the biohome which is inside. Okay, so basically what it does is it sucks the water through the sponge, through the slits, okay, which I cut. Solid base, sucks the water through the holes, it goes through that biomedia, sucks through there as well, and then it jets out back down over the waterfall. It's a super little filter, it really is. It's really done me well. It was an experimental filter that I built, and it keeps these water parameters absolutely spot on. It really does. But while I've got it out, I'm just going to empty out all that biohome gravel and the ultimate that I put in there. Take the sponges out, strip it all down, and give it a good old clean. That's the little pump which I put inside. Tiny little new jet. That's the one I used inside. So what I can do is for the minute I can just put that back in just to keep a bit of water movement going. That'll start firing up in a minute. There you go. And now what I've got is a series of rings, sponge rings, which I put in. I could have made them all as one. And that's the laser piece that I cut out on my laser cutter out of a piece of tube to make the housing for it, which I will now rinse out in a bit of tap water. That had you fooled. Never rinse anything out in tap water, guys. That's the fastest way to kill all of your beneficial bacteria in your filter very, very quickly. So never use that. Always use a bit of tank water that you've taken out of the tank first of all. That's the best way to do it. My other pothos cut in there, I'll just put that back a minute. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to pull out all these bits of roots. You can see the roots that have grown through the sponge, through there. I'm just going to pull all those out, clean all those up, wash out that biomedia in some nice tank water, and I think if I'm careful I can just get some out of his tank. There you go, and that'll be enough to just squash all those filters out and wash any debris off of the off that media. So I'll get back to you when all these have done and I've washed it and I've put the filter all back together again. Okay. Right guys, before we do that, what I was going to say is when you get these little new jet filters, okay, they slide across and they click in like that. But when you open them up, there's a little bit of sponge, okay, inside there. Now that can get jammed up quite easily and really restrict the flow of your pump, okay. So make sure that's cleaned out as well when you're doing it. So I've got a bucket of aquarium water here, and I just wobble it around in there, and as you can see now, you can near enough see through it. There's a little bit there, which is where my thumb was. But once we get rid of that, it's all nice and clean again. Slosh the old pump around in the bucket as well. Put that little bit of sponge back in there like that. Align that up, snap it together, and then the job's done. You can re-put your pipe in there. I made this pipe with that 90-degree bend on just so I could get the height out of the filter itself. Now I've done the filter, I've cleaned that all out as well. So now what I do is I drop that back in the hole, like so, all the way to the bottom, like that. And then I get my Biohome gravel and tip that back into the hole. Give it a little tap around, little shake. That all sits in there like that. And then I just slowly then put that back into its little reservoir which we created for it in the back. Move the other cables out of the way. Hide the cables again. That water will slowly start coming out in a minute. There you go. Now look at that for a flow. That's masses more flow in there now, but we can calm that down. Okay, with the sorry about that, Jackson, mate. It's a bit like a typhoon heading your way at the moment. But what I'll do is I'll put the rocks back in it now, and I can slower that flow up now with the plants, the stones, and create the waterfall now that I need. And don't forget that big bucket of stinky water where you cleaned your filter out. Don't throw it away. Go and feed all your house plants with it, okay? That's what I tend to do. And there's loads of goodness in there. And it'll keep your plants looking nice and healthy too. Some of the stones, just give your stones a little swirl around in the same bucket. That'll get rid of any detritus which is settled in amongst your dragon stone, because it's full of pores, as you can see on there. And then you've got to angle it where you want it to go. Now I only clean this filter out once every couple of months, guys, okay? It's not a job that you want to do too much, but already you'll see as you angle it around different places, you're going to get different flow patterns, and you can just keep adding other rocks to it, which will slow it down, and you can just change that pattern as you go around then. And already you see like that you've got a nice little cascade. It's still coming through there at full power, but you've quietened it right down, and just by moving a rock left or right, backwards or forwards, there you go, you can create a very fast flow or a very low flow, but you're still pushing that water out because it's going behind through there. And then all you've got to do, guys, is just lift up your plants. I'll do that in a minute. I'm just going to move this bucket out of the way, and then we can go in. There's a few roots I've got to cut off as well, which you can see in the water. These are another cool little pair of scissors by Fluval. They gave me these little snippers. Very handy for getting into these little tight little spaces, nipping off roots like that, and getting those out of the way because they look a bit unsightly. We don't want the roots sticking out everywhere. I've near enough stopped it all together now, so I'll move that out of the way first. I'll lift the plants up, put the plants, fluff them up over the top like that. They'll carry on growing. I've got a couple of other little stones in here hidden away. And then we can move things around, and those little cuttings that we took before, the pothos cuttings, I think what I'll do, we've got a bit of a bare area there now, so I'll use the reverse end of my tongs, make a little hole in amongst that. I've left some of the mind your own business here, okay, and that's going to carry on growing, but I can lift that out and I can push that pothos in. Put that there, and then just tap that down slightly as well. So that's that done there. And like I said, this is your little biotope. This is your little creation. Jack and his girlfriend are gone round there. I know I'm splashing around a bit, but don't worry about it. They're hiding down the back there out the way. Got a nice little bit of Java fern there. Now this stuff will grow out the water, so I'm going to make another little hole in that ground, and I'll just poke that in there a little bit and put that down, and those roots will stick in there in no time at all. And then really it's just a matter of moving these around. How you want them to go. I think that's quite a gentle little cascade coming down there now. If you've got any other little bits and bobs, little stones, you can just place them around, and before you know it, there you go. I think that's quite nice. That'll do me for the time being. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. There's a nice little flow going in there now, and it's sucking it in from all the way around the back here, and then it's blowing it out the front. So as that's blowing that way, it's going to be pushing water that way, back into the sponge both sides, and helping really move that water around. And believe it or not, there's absolutely zero nitrate in the water, none at all, with that little mixture, that filter and that biohome, and the plant life in there, which is taking a lot out of the water as well. So dry my old hands off, and then I think what we'll do is I shall make up a lovely bucket of water. Now all I use in this, guys, is dechlorinated tap water. Okay, lots of dechlorinators out there, and I use the JBL one, which has got aloe vera in it, which is nice, softens the water, gives it a nice coat on there. That's the one I've been using for many years now. I like that one, but I've got to take off a few more bits on the top here, give that glass a nice clean, the acrylic, sorry, and all I use is my fingers just to go around. But I'm going to trim off a couple of bits of these, the longest bits of this as well, with my scissors. So I'm just going to go in, be careful of the shrimps obviously, and the bits you cut off will float to the surface, as you can see. This will encourage more growth, send out more runners. You watch yourself there, boy. And then we can net all these little bits out as well, but it's just literally just feathering off so carefully. Come on out the way, you guys. You don't have to get every one. As long as you get the majority, give them a little trim. Swap that around now and do the other way. Sorry if my arm's in the way, guys. And it's normally around once a month I'll do this, maybe longer. But it's good to get in and give it a clear up and remove any of that dead and unwanted leaves. Some die off, and as you can see, they've all floated nicely to the surface. Jackson's still hopping around, he's quite happy in there. And then if you move them, you can shove them towards your net, blow them into your net with your fingers. You can use 2 nets. It's entirely up to you how you do it. But what I do is I put all the offcuts that I take off. Come on, daft shrimp, get out of there. There he goes. I put all the offcuts, believe it or not, into my tank with my big crayfish, because she eats them all. She'll eat anything I put in there. I'll have to do another video of her as well, because she's just recently shed again, and she's looking absolutely stunning. Cheers for all your little efforts there going into the that JBL giveaway. Got quite a few of you now left comments, so you're all in with a chance to win all those little goodies there when we get 15,000 subs, which is going to be fantastic. I'm just stirring it up a little bit more here because the fish have gone to the back, just to take out. I say that and he comes to the front. Got some duckweed in here as well, which I don't mind, but you don't want too much of it in there because it goes absolutely crazy. As you know, if you've got it in your tank. It's never ending, you keep taking it out. Anyway, I hope you liked all the breeding videos I've been doing throughout the summer. Hope I've helped quite a few of you guys out and you've managed to breed them yourself. It's like I've said on previous videos, guys, I've been doing this for many years now, and you tend to get into a little routine of how things work, how to set things up. But breeding fish, as I've said in many other videos before, is very easy to do. The hard bit is keeping that water quality good and making sure that you I just caught Jackson, sorry buddy. Well, that's not looking so bad now. It's coming together. A little bit more structure there, a little bit more room for him to swim around, which is nice. I think I'll just trim some more of these back along the base here, and I'll pause you for a minute and I'll get back to you when that's done, and we'll give it a nice water change, okay? Right guys, that's some of the water taken out, all the little bits taken out from in here now. Got my waterfall the way I want it. A couple of leaves I was going to trim off of here. I think I'll take those dead ones off of there and take that down, I think, as well. So that's going to encourage that side growth on that little tree as well. A couple of more bits on there. which I can take off as well, throw into my bucket. And then all I've got to do, I've got some pre-made water up, which I've got in a little bucket beside me, just normal tap water with conditioner in, and I'm very going to slowly now on a small pump just pump that back into the tank and refill it. Okay. Right, there you go, there's the water going back in now, nice and slowly. It's already temperatured up as well, it's back to 26 degrees going in. I can see Jackson lurking around on the left hand side of the tank there, underneath the pothos plants. Oh no, it's not, it's a little Anubias down there, which I planted. Another thing, if you want to clean the leaves up, guys, just go in there very carefully with your thumb and rasp away, and your fingerprints basically will clean that leaf off and any algae off in there. Hello mate, how are you doing? Have I disrupted you enough this morning? And also guys, when you're doing things, if you keep a little bottle handy with just some aquarium water in, just make sure you can give everything a good blast as well. Obviously if it's in your house, you're going to have to put something like a towel or something behind it. So that'll get rid of all your bits of mud and different things which have gone up onto the leaves. Like up there, you can just give them a blast off, clear any rubbish off your leaves and dust as well, and generally just give it a good old clean up. And make it look all nice and fresh and ready to go again for the next couple of months. Any little bits you don't want, just pull them off. And we're nearly there, look at that. Looking nice again. It's amazing how much this stuff can grow. And when it starts to go, it really does go. All the bottom now, I've taken some of the other bits out. Some of this dwarf sage I've taken out in clumps. I've just given the shrimp some area to graze on as well and move around, because they like rolling the substrate round as well. So that's great for them to do. We're nearly full up now. I'm just going to get a towel. I'm just going to stop that a moment. Put that in there, out of the way. And turn that water on. There you go. We're all back up to speed again. Taking quite a bit of the root systems out. That's not going to harm any of the plants if you cut the roots off. Don't worry about that, guys. And afterwards, make sure you give your tools a good old clean up. Get any rubbish off of those. Go and rinse them under some warm water or some hot water, as I do, because you don't want to be going into another tank with the same scissors straight away, okay, because of anything nasty that could be lurking in the tanks or on the will end up on the scissors, and you're going to move it across to another tank, which you don't want to do. So always remember that, guys. Always sterilise your nets with either boiling water, bit of potassium permanganate if you've got some of that, or a mild bleach solution. Yep, that's what I use, guys, a mild bleach solution, potassium permanganate, because I've got some for my koi when they get trichodina and costia and things of that nature in the summer. So now all we're going to do is just clean our little edges up, clean up the old acrylic. Always polishes up nice. The water's a little bit stirred up obviously, but it's not too bad. and there's a few little floaters around which I can net out later on. Yes guys, getting back to cleaning nets and all that stuff. What you want to make sure is as well that you're doing your nets. If you've got multiple tanks, and I see people do this so often and they just don't realise how easy it is to cross-contaminate. What happens is you go in with your net, straight in with this net, say, you're getting out all your little bits, and then you see and you've got a fish that's got white spot in this tank. So what do? You go and take this net straight out, put it into another tank, because you see a fish which has died or something that you've dropped in there, and you want to remove it, and you go and put this net then straight in to your other tank, and then you're cross-contaminated it. You've got little white spot spores, tomites on the net mesh, and you introduce those straight in to your other tank, and then you can't understand why you've got white spot in that tank where you've never had it in there for years, and you haven't added any more fish, or you can't work it out why. And it's basically coming on your nets. So many things coming on nets. In the wild, you can have a pond which has just been man-made, give it a year, go back, and it was just full of water when you did it, with mud in it, and a couple of bits and plants, and then chuck a fishing rod in there, and lo and behold, you start catching fish, and you think, well, how the hell did the fish get in there when no one put them in there? Reason is, little things like ducks are always paddling around the weed. In other ponds, you get the eggs from the weed stick to the ducks. The ducks will carry some weed on their feet when they fly up with some fish eggs on, carp eggs, tench eggs, whatever it is in the wild, and then they fly into your pond, have a little paddle around, the eggs fall off, before you know it they hatch in there, and you've got other fish species growing in there, and you wonder how they got in there. But that's how these things can move around. So it's all interesting stuff. It's all interesting. I had a pond back home many years ago, and I cleaned it out, and there was a foot-long eel in there, and it must have come across the land and gone into the pond, and it was living in there. But it just shows you how things move around and go across land into water, and things can cross-contaminate and go into other environments and take over them. Nature's a marvellous thing, it really is. I'm going to be pulling little bits out of here for ages now, but that's okay. It's getting pushed around from the back. So I hope there's a few little handy tips there for you guys anyway. And I think my little paludarium, Jackson's little home, is looking a lot better than it was. Well, it is for me. I know a lot of you guys may have liked it before, but you've got to realise is you've got to keep that flow working. Flow in a tank is super important, okay? When all these plants were down in the water here, right, nothing then, the water wasn't really getting into, all this would have been stagnant here. And if you look in amongst it, in your tank maybe you'll have some hair algae growing in there, you might have some all different types of problem algae. Hair algae is one of the biggest ones, but that's a low light, low flow kind of algae, and that thrives in those conditions. So if you've got that waterfall now coming down like I have here, it's going round that way back into the pump, round that way back in through the pump, and then cascading down through the middle again. So we've got a nice little overall. Just move that again. A bit of a splash here we had. That's better. Yeah, that's how it works. You've got to have a good flow. Without a good flow rate, your system's not going to work, and you're going to have a lot of problems with algae and different things like that. Nice clear flow, nice open front like that. Now fish are going to be happy, nice oxygenated water, plants are going to grow well again, and everyone's going to be happy, which is what we want. And what I tend to do is I put in a bit of the old Ferropol 24 in there as well, and I'll just put a couple of drops, 2 or 3 drops there on top of the stone, let that wash around, and that'll give those plants something to eat. Here you are, there's Mrs. Jackson there. and he's still hiding around the back. Anyway guys, I hope you like that little how to trim your bush video. As always, you're all stars. Love you loads. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of Marks Aquatics. Take care and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
Just me and my guitar.